It gives me great pleasure to welcome each and every one of you here this morning. When I saw the list of invitees, and actually the invitees to speak at this event, I thought we'd be here for a few days. So it appears from the schedule that not all could confirm to speak, but we are very, very happy to have some of our major stakeholders in culture here with us this morning, the ones who have been on the forefront over many, many years, keeping culture alive on St. Martin. And it gives me great pleasure as Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports to stand here representing culture this morning, to have in our midst Dr. Green, who has been conducting the workshops. Can we give her a big round of applause? Starting Monday. And the topics, I'm so sorry that I wasn't able to actually sit in and take part in some of these, but I hope and pray that our stakeholders found them enlightening and that moving forward, the information disseminated will take us to the next level. Our governor, of course, has been doing his part in promoting culture with his symposiums, so in this way we feel that all sectors of government are moving forward in recognizing, belatedly though I must say, that culture is inherent, and even tie it now to the economic development of St. Martin in diversifying our tourism product. Forging our national identity. I think our culture department head, when we had these discussions since back in 2012 on revitalizing our natural and cultural heritage, reminded me that not all of St. Martin is ready for us to actually get into serious discussions moving forward. Who are we as St. Martiners? But the talk must start, followed quickly after by the actions, because for long we have been, because of our multi-ethnicity and our multi-diversity, all countries of the world converge here. Many feel that we are losing who we are. It is imperative that we never do that. So with the start of these conferences, with these exchanges and moving forward, I pray and hope that we can quickly come to a resolution as to who is a St. Martiner and protect such within our Constitution. That we can identify all our natural and heritage monuments and determine to what extent we can protect them, because the financial obligation where that is concerned is also something we need to tackle, and how we will be able to fund such within our budgets. So the talk is starting, and I'm very happy for that, but I look forward even more so to the actions that will come forth as a result of this conference, of this symposium, and as we revitalize our natural and cultural heritage, may we all find a space where we can say that we are part of it and leave a legacy for those who are yet to come. Because with history, with existence, and with change, because that is another thing that I believe many do not recognize, that culture is ever-changing. While we value all of the past, we must continue to move forward and progress, and of course the way we do things continues to change. Thank you for being here as participants. Thank you for being here as the ones who have heralded, the ones who have carried the torch and pioneered for many, many years in all areas, be it performance arts, be it art itself that we see displayed here, be it the music, be it the festivals, be it our monuments that you have helped to preserve or fought to preserve, our nature, our flora, our fauna. We need you all, we thank you all, and we hope that we'll continue to work collectively to preserve, to identify, and to strive forward as a country, not only enjoying it, but selling it to the world, making it a selling point for St. Martin. Thank you and welcome.
As I contemplated on the theme for this gathering, what immediately caught my attention was the stronger, forging a stronger national identity, causing me, of course, to pause by the status of our national identity. The word national identity brought a picture to me of our national ID, our national identification card. And so I picked up mine. St. Martin, big letters, S-I-N-T, M-A-R-T-E-N, S-I-N-T. The nationality on the national ID card, NLD, Netherlands, Dutch. My place of birth listed as Guadeloupe. And then, of course, all of the other things that are on the national ID card. As a sort of a watermark, one of our national symbols, namely the pelican. Interesting how our official national ID is put together. Arriving, therefore, I did at least, at a conclusion that we are a complicated people. A complicated and unique people. The uniqueness, therefore, is what is going to allow us to establish our true national identity. I took note of the fact, not only because it is written, but because I know it from experience, that at least in 2005, there were discussions about our culture, about arriving at a cultural policy. And I recall, because of the complexity surrounding the question, who is a St. Martiner, at that time, we chose to remain with a cultural identity. We chose to take the cultural identity, the cultural person, our culture in general, skirting the question of who is a St. Martiner. I think part of the challenge, a great part of the challenge, lies with the fact that we today are looking back at 2005, where the last serious discussions were held regarding our culture, our identity, our being, our self, and our oneness. That's 11 years ago. It is time, more than time, therefore, to again put this matter on the forefront of all agendas, including the political agenda of St. Martin. We have had our period where all focus and concentration, and maybe rightfully so at the time, was on our economic development. And that brought us the results of that push, of that strife. We are at the top of the economics in terms of regional, who we are, how others look at us, etc. And then there was the period of political and constitutional development, not only starting with the referendum of 2000, even before that, when attempts were made, first of all, to come to an autonomous St. Martin, an independent St. Martin, and finally resulting in the referendum of 2000 with the choice of the people of St. Martin for a country within the Dutch Kingdom. I say, and I put to you, that the period for our cultural and national identity development is now. Overdue, some might say, but the opportunity to again take the proverbial bull by its horns is here today, is here for you, has been here with you as you have been having these discussions. I have also taken note, of course, of what you consider the objective of these gatherings, of these meetings, of these workshops. And in your objective, you have put, the choice is an ethnic or a civic nation. I give to you again for your consideration and pondering that it is not as black and white as those two phrases might have it appear. I think we need to go for a civic and ethnic nation of Saint Martin people.
The theme of this symposium, forging a stronger national identity, is not only suggestive, it is also provocative in the series of questions it raises. It suggests, for one, that we have a national identity which needs to be further strengthened. I can imagine that some political scientists, sociologists, and anthropologists would take issue with that and probably contend that we actually don't have a national identity, and therefore we would need to establish one first before we can begin to think of strengthening it. Another school of thought would perhaps want to start with defining what we mean by national and what we mean by identity. If we look around, though, we would see that the issue of national identity has become a major point of discussion all over the world, including in old nation states such as France and the UK. In 2009, for example, President Sarkozy of France sparked off a 3-month nationwide debate about what it means to be French. We are trying to set a world record here by discussing the issue in one working day, although I understand that this is actually part one of a conversation I hope will continue with greater public participation. For you, what does it mean to be French? President Sarkozy asked the public. The question was not just a philosophical one, but had legal ramifications, evident in his country's immigration laws and policies. As simple as it sounds, however, the question has no easy answers. Could we pose the same question about what it means to be a St. Martiner? I suspect this will come up in your deliberations here today and after. Certain segments of our community have in fact been pointing to the fact that our Constitution does not define who is a St. Martiner. These activists have been demanding that our Parliament rectifies this. In fact, recently the whole idea of who is a St. Martiner or not surfaced in a recent parliamentary debate. All of these point to the fact that the St. Martin identity has become an issue of serious concern to many of our people. Professor Liav Orgat, in an article titled Us and Them, Can We Define National Identity?, which was published in the Oxford University Press blog almost exactly a year ago, made the following observation. And he said, until not so long ago, European countries did not struggle with the question, a search for a bond to bind them together. National identity was a given, not something that had to be defined. But times have changed. The question of immigration, together with globalization processes and the rise of minority rights and multiculturalism, have led to a new reality where it becomes more difficult to know what it means to have a national identity, how legitimate it is to act upon such identities or impose them on newcomers. Immigration, more than anything else, he added, has brought to the fore the question of national identity, encouraging nation states to define themselves. We see this in the fact that, as Professor Orgard noted, in the same article, Britain has changed its concept of Britishness 3 times in less than a decade, starting from 2005, when every person who wanted to settle in the United Kingdom was required to demonstrate sufficient knowledge about life in the United Kingdom by passing the Life in the UK test. When we apply this to St. Martin, we begin to realize the complications and obstacles we face in defining who we are. Professor Orgard speaks of nation states. We are not a nation state yet. We have citizenship tests, yes, which all those who wish to naturalize have to pass. But as a constitutional part of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, we have no say in who obtains the Dutch citizenship, nor in how this is conferred. We boast about 114 nationalities or even more that reside on our 16 square mile portion of this island, yet we do not have a St. Martin nationality. We too refer to ourselves as Dutch or French, or sometimes both, and we carve out our island into Dutch St. Martin and French St. Martin, and constantly talk of going to the French side or back to the Dutch side. And I ask myself, where is the real St. Martin side in all of this? The point that I'm trying to make is that until St. Martin becomes an independent sovereign state, the issue of national identity will remain at best a French and Dutch thing. Because although we carry one or the other of these European passports, the average St. Martiner, whether from Marigot or Philipsburg or Great Bay, doesn't see himself or herself as Dutch or French. In fact, Wikipedia defines national identity as a sense of belonging to a nation, to a state, as a cohesive whole, as represented by distinctive traditions, culture, and language, or a sense of solidarity one feels with a particular group without regard to one's actual citizenship status. How do we experience and express that sense of belonging in St. Martin? Do we have a cohesive whole? What role does culture play in cementing our national identity? These, I hope, are some of the questions the panelists will be addressing at this important symposium. According to the mantra of Culture Time, the island's longest-running cultural program on radio, culture unites, politics divides. Sarkozy's campaign, whether it was politically motivated or whether it was indeed a serious attempt at nation building, revealed a fundamental truth, which Professor Orgard put this way: when nation states start to examine what holds a people together, they quite often conclude that there are more sources of division than unity. Should we then simply let sleeping dogs lie where it concerns the issue of unity and national identity? I certainly don't recommend that approach. Rather, I believe we should explore the main elements that combined create that sense of national identity which we intuitively recognize and consciously aspire to. Some of these elements, in my opinion, include, in no order of priority, a shared landmass or geography, a people with a common history and heritage, national symbols that represent and sensitize our ideals and values, cultural habits, and the landmass which distinguish us from others, and outstanding accomplishments that serve as an inspiration and source of pride for all of us. Others are a common language and the ability to determine citizenship. Regarding the matter of citizenship, as it relates to national identity, it is instructive to remember, as Professor Orgat noted, that the highest French administrative court, the Conseil d'État, in one of its decisions stated that it is justified to deny French citizenship to someone if that person behaves in a way that is incompatible with the values essential to the French community. The scholar further pointed out that the court, however, did not offer guiding standards of what one should do or avoid doing in order to assimilate into the French way of life, nor did it provide a definition of values essential to the French. That is how complicated the topic we are dealing with is. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I did not mean to be this long. However, the topic is of such importance that I felt compelled to frame the discussion in a way that hopefully would transcend the trivialities with which some of us have dealt with this issue up to now, and to set some markers about where we should be heading, mindful of the fact that we are just beginning the journey. I want to end by commending the initiative of our Minister, Sylvia Jacobs, and her staff at the Department of Culture for organizing this very important symposium. The Chinese say, a journey of 1,000 miles begin with the first step. This symposium is that first step and very important step. We can therefore safely say we are on our way. I wish you all a productive and meaningful deliberation. Have a good day.
Thank you again, Tobias. I would like to say welcome to some of the participants who have in the meantime joined us. Thank you for being here. And also to apologize to our keynote speaker, as I did not acknowledge her in my first attempt to address you this morning. Welcome, Dr. Jeffrey, and we do look forward to your keynote address. I am pleased to say the words of our Chair Lady of Parliament and our Prime Minister have really put me in a frame of mind, and I hope you as well, that we are definitely at all levels of government moving in the same direction. The importance of this event, that we are starting to look at it. Whether, I like the fact that our Chair Lady mentioned the diversity of our ID card and the confusion it presents. And I must say, that feeling of, am I a St. Martiner, has been thrown in my face as well, because I wasn't born here. And I had to prove that 3/4 of my grandparents are St. Martiners. That the Richardson, the Lake, and the Jacobs are St. Martiners. And whilst the Willemsberg is a Surinamer, and I was born in Aruba, I am a St. Martiner. I am St. Martin. It is a feeling of belonging. This is where I belong. And so I'm happy that we are finally on our way to getting this discussion moving towards action, and I declare this symposium open.